All right. Happy Saturday, everybody. We want to start on time. Hope everybody is enjoying the start of the lovely weekend. And for those that have just finished your final exams, I hope it went really, really well. We understand it's a super busy time for everybody, especially this time of year when dental application is just around the corner. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a little frustrated, or even a bit lost, you're definitely not alone. We have coached hundreds of students over the last few months, and I can assure you that thousands of other students are feeling the exact same way. And because some of us have trekked through that same jungle, if you will, we understand what you're going through, and that's exactly why we're here, and we're super excited to be introducing our new module, How to Master the Dental School Application, in 5 modules plus 1 bonus module. So today is the introduction to this module.
The way this is going to work is I do have 5 modules lined up for you guys, and each module is going to go over a certain part of the application process, how to maximize your chances, how to stand out, and so on. But again, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So a little background information about myself. My name is Jeremiah Warren. I'm 23 years old, born and raised in Orlando, Florida. I'm currently a first-year dental student at Meharry, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm the first person in my family to enter the field of dentistry. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, when you guys do get into dental school, you will also be the first person in your family to be the first dentist or just be the first dental student. And let me tell you now, it is an amazing feeling. Every time I go somewhere, people already treat me like a dentist, say, "Oh, Jeremiah, can you do this for me?" And it's definitely worthwhile. And this is a little picture of me, my favorite city, Toronto. For everybody that's Canadian, I love you guys. So the first module, we will actually be going over a comprehensive walkthrough of the application portal. So the first module, again, is really about the application portal. And the application portal consists of 4 main sections with subsections in each of the sections, if that makes sense. So the first module is the first section is the personal information section. There's a couple questions within there, and we'll go over it. And the second section of the application is academic history, and then the third is supporting information, and then the fourth is the program materials. And we will for sure be going over everything in the first module, but some key takeaways here. The soft opening, if you want to start dental school August of 2022, that application cycle is actually opening up in about 3 days. On May 11th, it opens up. And that is the soft opening, and you cannot submit the first application or any applications for that matter until June 1st. So it's called a soft opening because originally they used to open it up, and then as soon as you open it up, people were allowed to submit their application. But schools realized that people were they felt the rush and the need to submit their applications on the first day, which I'll tell you guys now. Submitting your application the first day on June 1st or on August 1st, it does not matter. It does not increase your chances. It really doesn't matter. And I do go over this during the modules, but I just want to let you guys know that it does open May 11th. And if you do plan on applying this summer at all, May 11th, I would for sure go ahead and start filling out the application, regardless if you've taken the DAT or not. And then just have it ready. So whenever you do take your DAT, you can upload your scores and apply immediately. That is what I would do. And I suggest you guys do that. Now, before I move on to module 2, let me tell you guys some more about the application portal. So the application portal is called the AADSAS. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have no idea what it stands for, but it does support 67 dental schools. So if you see on a map, this is where the schools are really located, and it reflects 66 schools. But Texas recently just opened up another school, and that's why it's not reflected here. But there's 67 schools in the United States that use the AADSAS, and these are the 4 in Canada that use the AADSAS as well. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, or you just want to mark this. But basically, before we move on to module 2, if you guys would like to post any questions in the chat box, I can go over some questions, and then all the deeper level questions we will address in the individual modules. So please send in some questions and let me answer some.
We're just waiting for questions, but I got a quick question. When people say that, when schools say there's like a rolling admission, you mentioned that you don't have to apply at day one, but if there's like a rolling admission, what does that mean? Like does applying early kind of increase your chances?
Okay, sorry about that. I'm just trying to move this chat box. Give me 1 second. It's not allowing me to move it. But as far as applying early, it does not really increase your chances. So the way I see it is most most interviews, the first batches of interviews go out late August, early September, right? So I always tell people in my one-on-ones, as long as you apply by August 1st, that is when I believe is a good time because you still give the schools around 3 or so weeks to review your application and you could still be in that first batches of interviews. Now, it doesn't really, even with rolling admissions, it really doesn't benefit you to apply early because a lot of people, they will go ahead and apply early, right? They will go ahead and apply even without their DAT. And then once they take the DAT exam, they spend thousands of dollars applying to schools. And then when they take their DAT, they already know that they're going to get denied from some of the schools because they didn't meet their DAT requirements. And as far as DAT requirements, we do go over that. But that is why I really, really suggest that you do go ahead and take the DAT first and then apply. But as far as applying, the first day it opens does not benefit you at all. At all. That is the cold hard truth. Any other
That's good.
questions? Mm-hmm.
I think that gives a lot of students relief, right? You don't have to rush through applying right away per se. Um, some students were asking that they read that this year they pushed the submission date to June 16th. Have you heard of that? Or
I originally thought it was June 16th as well, but during my one-on-ones, a student told me it was June 1st. Either way, it's normally early June, whether it's the first week, the first day, or it's mid-June, it will for sure be in June. And if you guys didn't know, the application cycle is pretty much a year long. So it's from June all the way up until the following May. And believe it or not, most interviews, just to let you guys know, most interviews are normally held between September and January, but some schools do interviews all the way up until May. So, applying the first day in June or the first 2 weeks in June really doesn't benefit you at all because a lot of schools, their deadlines are December, January, or February, just to let you guys know. So the earliest deadline I've ever seen for any school that uses the AADSAS, which is the 67 American schools and 4 Canadian schools, the earliest deadline I've ever seen was October 1st. So, applying in June doesn't really help you out at all. It doesn't give you more chances of getting in, not at all.
all right, thank you for that. Another question is one school necessarily better than another, or is it just about what fits you best?
Okay, I like that question. So, this is my honest opinion, and I don't know how you guys all feel about it, but I've personally never went to my dentist, my orthodontist, or my oral surgeon and said, "Wait, before you operate on me, where did you go? Oh, you didn't go to a certain school, you can't treat me." I don't know too many people that do that, but I'm sure you could ask Dr. Bruce because he's an actual dentist. I've never done that, and I think as long as you get into a school and you become a dentist, it doesn't matter where you go. So the way the AADSAS and the American schools work, even the Canadian schools, as long as you pass the board exam. So now there used to be a board exam after your first year in dental school, and again after your third year, you would have to pass both board exams to graduate from dental school. And then once you graduate, you have to pass the state license exam wherever you decide to practice. But now it's an integrated board exam that only takes place after your third year. And whether you go to Howard, which is in Washington, D.C., or you go to Harvard, you take the exact same board exam. Meaning, if you guys pass it, you guys are equally as smart in the patient's eyes. So that's the way I see it. And, I always tell everybody, this is my personal opinion, but you want to go to the cheapest school possible because, these schools that come with very prestigious names also come with a very, very hefty price tag. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, you made a great point. You know, it's not so much about, you know, where you graduated or even how great your skills are. It's really about who you are as a person and the type of character you've developed. So I think oftentimes it's how well you interact with your patients and how much trust you can gain and how much rapport you can build with your patients, for sure. We have some questions about Texas and whether the Texas school dental schools kind of have a different type of um, cycle or application process. Do you know anything about that, Jeremiah?
I am not too familiar with the actual Texas application, but I do know they use their own application. They also do use the AADSAS as well. So I believe you have to utilize and apply on both. I think their application portal is called the TMDAS. Don't quote me on that. It's something like that. But basically, just so you guys know, Texas shows a lot of preference to Texas residents. And on average, they accept probably 1 through 5 out of state students per school. So if you guys are interested in Texas, you just want to be aware of that. And yes, TMDSAS. Thank you. I was close. But it does take a lot of preference to the Texas residents. So you just want to be aware of that. But I think Texas schools do that because Texas is a huge state and there's a lot of interest. 90% by law have to be in state. Okay, thank you. There you go. So 90% have to be in state to go to a Texas school. That is pretty crazy, but if you guys like to apply to Texas schools, you should. And just to let you guys know, Texas schools are definitely the cheapest dental schools in America. 100%.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's good to know. Maybe we can move on to the next module. Great questions. Any of the questions that we missed, we wouldn't forget about it. We're going to make a list of the questions relevant to each module, and we're going to be going more deeper dive into these questions as we in the future modules.
Mhm.
All right.
Now, the second module, we'll really be going over the letters of recommendation, which is very big, and the supplemental applications, right? So the letters of recommendation, what we'll be going over is whether you want to submit them in a committee letter, committee packet, committee evaluation. These are all very similar, but they're a little bit different each. Or if you just want to submit them individually, which is what a lot of people do because their schools don't have a committee letter, committee evaluation, or committee packet, but we're definitely go over that. And also for the letters of rec, we would be talking about when you should start asking, how many letters do you need, who you should ask, how you can strengthen your letters of recommendation, and how you can improve your chances of getting a letter of recommendation and getting a lot of professors and other faculty members and dentists to say yes to writing you a letter. Now that I do offer a lot of tips and tricks, 100%. Just let you guys know, I did get letters of recommendation from professors. I got a C in their course, and that's very unspoken. People normally get letters of recommendations from professors where they get an A, they're top of their class. But it is very possible and very feasible to get letters of recommendation from professors. You got a C in their class. And that class, in case you guys were wondering, was organic chemistry. So just to let you guys know. And as far as the supplemental applications, so these are essentially a secondary application. That's oftentimes what they're referred to as, or simply secondaries. So once you apply on AADSAS, right, schools, if they have one, they're going to send you via email another application. And these questions on that secondary application are pertaining specifically to that school. For example, why do you want to go to this school? Why should we accept you over somebody else? What do you think of our mission statement? And so on. And just to let everyone know, not every school has secondary applications or supplemental, but that is a very, very, very big part of the application. And um, I already addressed that. And I already addressed this too as well. Now, how fast do they need to be completed? So obviously you don't want to take too long to do it, but at the same time, you don't want to turn it in the first day with, just crazy responses. I would say you should take, a week or 2 weeks to really, really dive in deep and answer those questions to the best of your abilities. But As far as module 2, this is what we'll be going over. And again, if you guys have any questions as it pertains to module 2, now is the time that you guys could type them in the chat and we will be answering them either now or in the modules.
Yeah, we do have a question. Do you recommend making a new email address to manage the emails coming in?
I mean, it sounds like a lot of work, but it's really not. But you could do that. I don't think it's really necessary. You could just make sure that AADSAS doesn't go to your junk folder. That's what I would do. But you could do that if you have an email that's very, very busy and you're subscribed to a lot of things and you get hundreds of emails a day, then most certainly you should do that.
Great. Another question: if you've applied before for dental school, would the login information be active for the secondary application?
So as far as the secondary application, a lot of schools, they have this portal that they utilize that's separate from the AADSAS portal. And that is where they update you. NYU has their own portal, and other schools do as well. And that's also where they send the secondaries. Now, as far as their individual portals, I don't know the answer because it varies per school. But as far as the AADSAS, if you have applied before, your login information is still good. And when you open up your application again, all your information from the first time applying or even the second time applying will still be there 100%.
Perfect. Then the question is the committee letter better than individual letters, or do they have their kind of pros and cons?
Me personally, I do like the committee letter. Well, I'm sorry, I like the committee evaluation. So a committee letter, just to stay real surface level, oftentimes it's really just a letter written by the pre-health office or the pre-health advising office, wherever you guys go. And that's generally just one letter. A committee evaluation is pretty much the same thing, but the committee packet, normally what that is your school, you apply for the committee packet and they tell you how many people you can get to write you a letter, and it ranges from 3 to 5. And basically, you reach out to those individual people to write you a letter, and then you give their first name, last name, and email to your school, and your school is going to reach out to each of the letter writers, tell them what it needs to be on it, tell them it needs to be signed, letterhead, dated, and so on. I personally like the committee packet because it shows the schools that you went through the extra step, right? Because you easily could just submit your letters by yourself on the AADSAS application. But if you do the committee packet, normally you have to meet certain requirements to obtain it from your school, whether it's your GPA, whether it's certain credit hours, and essentially it just looks better. For example, on behalf of UCF, that's where I went to undergrad. On behalf of UCF, we present you Jeremiah Warren's committee packet. That for me looks way better. Also, another tip and trick I like is the schools, dental schools, have a higher chance of reading every single letter if it's in one file versus all your letters in separate files. And I talk about that more in the second module, but that's the sole reason why I like the committee evaluation more. But if your school doesn't have it, because not a lot of schools have it, individual letters work just as fine. But if you go the individual route, you can only submit 4 letters. The committee evaluation route, you could submit up to 6 generally.
Awesome. That's a
Mhm.
great tip. Maybe last question is, I mean, some of our students are like junior, the first year, so a lot of the classes being like virtual, and they haven't been able to connect with a teacher face to face. Like, would you be kind of touching on how to kind of ask for a reference if the classes have been more virtual?
Right. So that's something I do dive deep in on the actual module. But essentially, the one quick thing that you guys can do to stand out automatically, leave your camera on during class. A lot of students, they log into class, leave their camera off, and they go to sleep or they do whatever they have to do. If you're the only student or the only, handful of students that have your cameras on during class and you're asking questions in the chat box, you're greeting and saying, good morning, and good afternoon. Thank you for the lecture. Hope you have a great day. And you're engaging and participating in the lecture and you do well in the class. That's an easy way for you to, stand out and get letters of recommendation, especially the camera thing. A lot of people do not do that. But if you think about it, when you go to classes in person, people sit in the front row so they can be noticed, right? That's essentially why I want you guys to have your camera on. And I could tell you honestly that most people do not have their camera on. But if you do, and you do engage in the chat box, your professors will notice you. I promise it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Awesome. Yeah, let's move on to the third module, Jeremiah.
So this module is about volunteering, shadowing, manual dexterity, and other curriculars, right? Now this one, I say GPA, DAT, personal statement, and letters of recommendation. Those four are equal in value. Those four are very, very primary in regards to your application. Now, volunteering, shadowing, manual dexterity, and other extracurriculars, these are very secondary. And I like to reference this so people could remember that, if your GPA or DAT is not ideal, your volunteering, shadowing, manual dexterity, and your other extracurriculars are not going to outshine that. That's a misconception a lot of people have. This is just aiding and you know why you're good and why you're a good applicant. But this is very secondary, but you should have this. And we will be going over how many volunteer hours you should have, how many shadowing hours you should have, the different types of manual dexterity, and the different types of extracurriculars you can get involved in to help, to help stand out. But as far as other things, leadership looks very, very great. You guys should get involved at any leadership level you can. And as well as research. Research is another thing that dental schools love. But again, maybe you guys gotten the idea of what we're doing, but now you guys could ask some questions about this slide or what you would like to see. And that way, we are saving all the questions I do not go over, and we will be addressing those questions 100% in the individual modules.
Yeah, I know back many years ago, there was the soap carving as part of the DAT for the Canadian component. Is soap carving still a requirement for some schools, or is that still part of the DAT?
So look, that's funny. As far as the DAT, no, there is a perceptual ability portion of the DAT where it's a bunch of questions that's really challenging your mind. I believe it's 90 questions, which takes place in 60 minutes. It's a very, very quick section. But as far as soap carving, the only school that I know is LECOM, which is in Florida. It's kind of by Tampa, if you guys are familiar with Florida. LECOM, in your interviews, you soap carve during your interview at the dental school. And I don't know if you break it, if you don't get in, or what's the case, but I have heard people breaking it, not getting in, and I've heard cases of people breaking it, but also getting in. But as far as soap carving on the DAT, Dr. Bruce, no. But some schools do have you do it during your actual interview. And LECOM, which is in Florida, that's what they have you do.
Awesome. Thanks for addressing that. Yeah, I believe, of course, we can do a bit. We can touch on that in the future modules. In a lot of Canadian schools, a lot of schools did require the soap carving. It's a component of the Canadian DAT in the past, but I know that some schools are not requiring anymore. I believe just from my experience that manual dexterity can be practiced. If you practice doing the same thing 10,000 hours, you're going to get good at it. So I don't believe it's going to as a real as a big decision factor for the manual dexterity. So I think that's probably why they took it out.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Let me see here. If the question is, if they want to apply for this cycle, is there a deadline for when they should have the shadowing hours by?
I definitely tell everybody by the time you submit your first application or any application for that matter, you should try to have at least 60 to 80 shadowing hours. And I'll probably say the same for volunteering. But shadowing and volunteering, you can always update as you get it and you can update your application. So, and there's also a COVID section if, shadowing and volunteering have been hard for you to obtain this past year due to COVID. There's actually this COVID section on on the application cycle where it asks, has COVID impacted your academic life? Has it impacted your personal life or your professional life? And there's a bunch of questions there that you don't have to answer, but there's questions there.
Nope, I think Jeremiah cut off. Jeremiah, can you hear us? Jeremiah? It's okay. He'll probably just be restarting his Wi-Fi. Just to touch on the
Different doctors, and
oh,
for
there.
yeah.
Oh, you cut off a little bit there.
Oh,
Probably like
sorry
the
about that. Okay, so to go back, as far as
rewind.
how many, where, how far back?
No, you can, it's probably 20 seconds.
Okay, okay. So, as far as shadowing and volunteering, I recommend you guys to have 60 to 80 hours total by the time you guys are applying. But if you don't have that many hours, it is okay. There's this COVID section on the application. Some of you guys may have heard about it, some of you guys may have not. But essentially, there's a bunch of questions there that ask, has COVID impacted, your personal life, your professional life, or your academic life? And the questions there, you don't have to answer them, but the questions are merely there to help you guide and help formulate your responses. So a lot of students that are lacking in the shadowing and volunteering hours, they could take advantage of that section. And I will show you guys that section during the first module where we do the comprehensive walkthrough of the AADSAS application. But as far as how many hours I like for volunteering, I would say you need to have 100 plus. And as far as shadowing, I would say 120 plus, with the majority being with a general dentist. That is very key. The majority must be with the general dentist. Any other questions?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Maybe I can touch on a little bit about the whole virtual shadowing and kind of my experience. I'm sure a lot of you have been making a lot of efforts finding these virtual shadowing online. I mean, most of them are awesome. It's really good. I mean, doctors take time to kind of share some of their insights, but the truth is, a lot of times the doctors don't really know what the students are looking for, which is why a lot of students tell us the virtual shadowing experience has started to become a little bit repetitive. Start to hear the same things being repeated about their journey, same insights. They don't tend to go super deep into the cases. They just kind of show you the final result, right? Is that right? So part of what we have developed is called a dental externship. So if you heard of the term externship, it's allows you to actually think critically. So our dental externship programs are actually divided into 8 modules, and every month we're tackling one module. So upcoming next week, actually, we're into our 4th module, and we're going to be discussing everything about periodontics. So that's everything about the supporting structures of the teeth, and we use breakout rooms, poll questions, a lot of live discussions to actually get you to think like a dentist. And the whole idea is instead of just listening, you're actually thinking like a dentist, and those are counted towards the hours as well. And I think what's most important is not so much the hours that you have, but you're able to actually take away some insights and be able to use it, in your application, right? To use it during your interview. And that's specifically what the externship is designed for, is to allow you to think like a dentist. Perfect. And any questions regarding the externship? All right. Jeremiah, we can move on to the 4th module.
Yes. So the 4th module is another big one. This one is about personal statement and resumes. And so with a personal statement, this is a huge thing. If you have a lower GPA or a lower DAT, a strong personal statement can make up for that 100%. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you have great numbers, great statistics, great letters of rec, if your personal statement is not ideal, or it's let's be honest, it's bad, it will hurt you. So personal statement is one thing that I do love talking about it, because it's really, really important. But as far as personal statement, during the 4th module, we'll be talking about how long it should be, what experiences / topics you should include, when the admissions boards, when exactly do the admissions boards see your personal statement, the order of they see it. Do they see it before they see your GPA, before they see your DAT, or is it after? We'll be talking about that and why it's important to know. And we will also be talking about who should review your personal statement. One thing I can tell you guys now is you don't want too many eyes looking at it, because too many opinions can definitely be a bad thing. And as far as when you guys should start working on it, if you guys are applying this cycle, you should have already started working on it 100%. And when I tell you guys how to do it during the fourth module, how I recommend will take you minimum a month if you do it correctly, because personal statement is something you don't want to rush at all. It's very, very important. Now, as far as resume, I'm just going to tell you guys now, you don't submit it anywhere, but there are 3 reasons why I want you guys to have it right now. One, every dental student has a resume, right? If you don't have one, you're going to be the outlier. 2, every letter writer that's writing you a letter, you should give them your updated resume. And 3, it's really, really, really going to help you out when you go to your dental school interviews by bringing a resume. Now, what should you include on your resume? We'll go over that. We will also go over when you should start it and how long it should be. I'll just tell you guys right now, your resume should be 1 page. If it's 1 page, perfect. If it's longer than 1 page, you're either elaborating too much or putting stuff that doesn't really need to go in your resume. And how your resume can help you during the application process, I'll also go over that. But again, if you guys have any questions about module 4 or what you guys would like to see, you guys could please post this in the chat box and we will go over some questions now. And the rest, I will make sure that we talk about it in the individual modules.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this module is definitely going to be super popular. Personal statement is I agree, is very important. We have a question. Is shadowing, so volunteering and shadowing are secondary? Is personal statement also part of the secondary application?
No, so on the AADSAS, there's the 4 sections. I'll go back to show you guys. So on the AADSAS, where is it? There you go. The personal statement will actually be submitted here for the supporting information. But going back to what I said about primary things versus secondary, just so you guys could take note, GPA, DAT, personal statement, and letters of rec. Those 4 are primary in the sense those are the most important things about your application. And again, if I'm speaking a little too fast, GPA, DAT, personal statement, letters of recommendation. Those are the primary things, not on the, yes, they're all on the primary application, but I'm speaking on how important they are to your application. Now, as far as shadowing and, volunteering, all that stuff would also go underneath this section, but those are very, very secondary. And what I mean by that is, you could have 1,200 shadowing hours, 1,500 volunteering hours, but if your GPA or your DAT is not there, it's really not going to make up for it. That is what I'm trying to get across to you guys. That's a good question, though. Very good question.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you just answered another question about, whether personal statement can, having a great personal statement can almost help with a lower GPA and DAT score. We have a Camir. Did you want to ask a question?
Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt you guys. I just wanted to ask a quick question about the letter of recommendation from committee people for university that you guys mentioned. It was really interesting to me, to understand that. I know the general letter of recommendations are 4, as you know, but for the committees, like you said, we can upload up to 6, as I don't make a mistake.
Yes. So that's a good question. So basically the way it works is if you're only doing individual, you can only submit 4 letters total. And the way it works is once you get your professors and other people that I recommend you to get, you just take their first name, their last name, and their email. You put that on the AADSAS application, and then you're done. AADSAS will handle the rest. They will reach out to each of the 4 people, sending them a link to upload the letters, telling them it needs to be signed, dated on letterhead, and so on. But as far as the committee evaluation, schools, in my school in particular, they gave me 5 slots. They told me to get 2 science professors, a general dentist, and 2 character letters, right? So then once I put up those 5 slots, they submit that to AADSAS on my behalf. But AADSAS will give you 1 extra letter on top of the committee evaluation. So if your committee evaluation allows you to get 4, with the extra letter from AADSAS, you could have 5. And then if your committee evaluation allows you to get 5, with the extra letter from AADSAS, you can have 6. So that's why I say the max is 6, because I've never seen a school that allows you to submit more than 5 letters to the evaluation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And so just like to be confirming that part, so is it the committee letters is beside the general letters, or no, just like one to the other? I mean, like, let's say if we want to have like a letter of recommendations from committees like this, only those needs to be submitted, not the generals then, right? Or both together?
So it varies on the school. Some schools, right off the top of my mind, I know Tufts, if you get a committee letter from your school, it will waive all the requirements as far as, dentist letter, science letter, and so on. But a committee letter by itself, I don't think it's enough. So that's the last option I would go. I would go committee evaluation first, / packet, and then individual letters, and then committee letter. Because a committee letter, generally speaking, is just one single letter. And if a school wants, 2 science professors, a general dentist, and a character letter, one committee letter won't really suffice. And I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much. And for the interfolio helps that too, like to collect all those letters you want? Because usually like people...
You go ahead.
Yeah, people usually like me, myself, we collect our letter of recommendations for interfolio. Like, is it good to just consider interfolio for the submissions of the letter of recs?
We definitely go over that because interfolio is one of those more complicated things as far as uploading your letters, and we're trying to I'm trying to think about how to word this. But basically, interfolio is fine if you're storing your letters for years. But if you're applying this cycle and you haven't gotten any letters, you do not need to use interfolio for this cycle.
Oh,
because you could just submit them directly to AADSAS.
Thank you.
Awesome, Jermaine. That's awesome. Those are all great questions. We have questions that are more pertinent to each of these modules. We're gonna kind of deep dive more into these specific topics. But maybe we'll just take one final question from Amara, and then we can move on to module 5.
I'm sorry, you can actually skip me because my question was about interfolio. So I think you kind of touched on that. But yeah, I mean, I was wondering the same thing too, because I wanted to use interfolio, but I was just kind of trying to figure out when you use that, how do you actually put it into the application?
And just to let you guys know, that's the complicated thing about interfolio, because on the application itself, you need to submit the first name, last name, and email of all your letter writers. And if you have all your letters in your interfolio, even if you have the privacy one where you can't read your letters, you would have to insert your own email if you want to upload the letters from interfolio. In schools, if they're not familiar with the interfolio process, they will be wondering, why did this young man submit their own letters? It's going to look really weird. So, you really have to put the first name, last name, and email of the professors, of the general dentist, and then they get sent a link to upload it. But when they get sent the link, that means they're going to upload the letter. So, you storing it in interfolio really doesn't make too much sense. That's my opinion.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. All right, Dana, if you can maybe just in respect of time, if you can just post the question on the chat box, and we'll save that question for the specific modules. And John, if you can move on to module 5.
Cool. So module 5 is really about courses, major, and GPA. So for courses, we'll be talking about what are the prereqs for varied schools. Does every school require the same prerequisites? What prereqs do most schools require? And what are some extra classes you could take to prepare for the rigors of dental school? That is a very big thing. And I'll tell you guys now, a lot of students outside of their, their minor and their major, what they'd like to do is take a lot of easier classes to boost their GPA. That's fine and all, but when you get into dental school, you're not going to be prepared. So every elective, I would take a rigorous science just to prepare you for the rigors of dental school. And even if you don't do too hot on them, I mean, dental schools are going to see, hey, they could have easily taken this easier course, but what they decide to do to prepare for dental school, they took this hard course. And that's going to help you. Not only will it help you get into schools, but it will also help you do, well in school, if that makes sense. Now, as far as GPA, we'll talk about what is the average GPA, science GPA versus overall GPA, which GPA is more important, and does withdrawing from courses negatively affect your GPA, and what happens if you have repeated a course. And we also talk about, if you go to various schools, how you have to upload your courses and how AADSAS factors your GPA for you. So what I could tell you guys now is your GPA you see at your university, at your college, AADSAS is most likely going to have a different GPA for you because they just calculate it a different way. But again, if you guys have any questions as it pertains to Module 5, please ask them in the chat box.
All right, just waiting for some questions. I'm just wondering, are there any questions you don't know, Jeremiah? You seem to know everything.
Now, I'll just tell you guys honestly. So you know how I said there was 4 main things that are primary: the GPA, DAT, personal statement, letters of rec. 2 of those 4, DAT and GPA, I was below average. And, I was still a traditional student, meaning I got in during my junior year, and I just really knew how to maximize my chances. And after being a dental student, I'm almost done my first year. After doing so many one-on-ones and after having so many friends that are also in dental school or in medical school, I've kind of combined this and all these learnings and made it into one thing that I really do go over. So I definitely do believe Dr. Bruce, not to, toot my own horn, but I do know a lot about the application process and, how to really maximize your chances. That is what I'm big in. 100%. Now, as far as, GPA and DAT, I could tell you guys how to study, but I can't take those for you. But as far as everything else, that I could really, really help 100%.
Totally. I just want to back up what you said. Remember I was telling you guys that I struggled through university and even dental school. I was the same as Jeremiah. My GPA was actually below average. My friend who had 4.0 GPA, we went through the interview together, and for some reason, I got in and she didn't. But she got into another university. So sometimes, the GPA and the number is not everything, and that's exactly, why Jeremiah is here to share his insights and all these tips and tricks, is to really give you guys a better perspective about the whole application process. Okay, there's a lot of good questions regarding GP. I think just in respect of time, we're gonna just save those and we're gonna go deep dive into these topics during the modules. Perfect. Yeah, maybe you want to share what your average GPA was, Jeremiah, and I can share mine?
Yes, so I'll just let you guys know, as far as AADSAS, the average student that gets accepted into dental school, they normally have a 3.55 cumulative GPA. Me, I had a 3.4. However, if you have ever repeated a course, AADSAS will factor that into your grade, even if let's say you took Bio 1, you got a D, and then you retook it the next semester, you got an A. At your university, they're only going to count that second A, right? But on AADSAS, they count both of those for every repeated course you've ever had, meaning your GPA will 100% be lower on the AADSAS application if you've ever repeated a course. So you guys just want to be aware of that. And I actually had to repeat my Bio 1 course, my freshman year. I wasn't really paying attention to school and I got a D in Bio 1. I repeated it the next semester, but because of that, my AADSAS GPA reflected a 3.37 and my science GPA was a 3.05, very low science, and my DAT was an 18. Average is about a 19. So, I was below average science GPA, overall GPA, and DAT. And honestly, I'm just gonna tell you guys, I found out that I wanted to become a dentist and go to dental school in January of 2019. 6 months later, I was applying to schools. So it's just pretty crazy. And if I can get in that way with below average stats for you guys, some of you that are freshmen, sophomores, or juniors, if you guys take all this stuff I'm telling you, it will really, really help you out. And I'm very excited to see, this happen for all you guys. Now, Dr. Bruce, you can go.
Awesome. No, we're super fortunate to have you, willing to share all these insights. For myself, I averaged, I think, was a 3.25 GPA. I think what kind of elevated my application was probably my personal statement and probably my reference, my letter of reference, because I knew someone. I didn't know that the doctor actually is friends with the dean of the school. So you see how important your reference letter can be if you know kind of the what to look for, and again, number is not everything. It's the whole package. Perfect. I think that's was there anything more that was part of your presentation, Jeremiah?
No, the next slide is really just talking about the next module. So the next module will take place on Sunday, May 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this is very tentative. It may change, but Dr. Bruce and I will try our best not to change it. And just let you guys know, all our modules will take place on Sundays about 10 a.m. Pacific time. You want to keep it, a certain time and a certain day. That way it's easier for all of us. But really, I have no other slides for you guys. This whole purpose of this was to really talk about what we will be addressing in all these modules and what you're going to learn, what you know now, and then what you're going to learn at the very end, and how you will be more prepared. But again, if you guys want to just spam the chat box with questions, we will take note of this, and we will, put in a Google Doc, and I'll make sure I answer all these questions in these individual modules. So please don't be afraid. Please send in all the questions you guys have.
Thanks, Jeremiah. That's amazing. And like Jeremiah was saying, we want to try to keep it consistent. Every Sunday, starting May 23rd, we're going to be going into each of these modules and deep dive. So those are the links. And Jeremiah, you can just stop sharing screen, and then we're just going to go into the next part of the presentation. So I'm going to be introducing Sarah from Austrac. If you're thinking about other options of dental school beyond North America, Austrac is the organization to go to. And Sarah has a short presentation for us, and she's going to kind of tell us a bit more about what Austrac is about. Sarah?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. So happy to be here, and thanks so much for having us. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. I've just got a few slides. I know we're trying to, as Dr. Bruce said, be respectful of time. So I just kind of give you a quick introduction about who Austrac is and kind of what we do. Very similar. End goal is to help students apply to these schools and how to maximize your best chances to get in. So we specifically deal with Australia and New Zealand. So I'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about our dental programs in a very kind of condensed manner, because we could talk about this for an hour. But first of all, so as Dr. Bruce said, so my name's Sarah. I'm a territory manager for Austrac. And we are a Canadian company. We work with North American students mostly, and helping them apply to schools in both Australia and New Zealand. So we actually have a total of 14 different universities that we are an official representative for in Australia and New Zealand, 8 of them being dental schools. And basically our role is to help students every step of the way. So similar to all the modules, helping students kind of figure out the best program, what might be the best fit for them, where they're competitive, all of those kind of initial questions when students are at this beginning of the process, and then walking through once you're ready to submit an application, helping you compile your application. We submit the application on your behalf, walk you through accepting an offer, visas, accommodation, all of those different things that we help you with from really kind of the beginning all the way to even when you get in Australia. Things have changed a little bit with COVID, unfortunately. So normally we'd have lots of in-person meet and greets for all of our students that were heading over. One of our directors, Jamie, she also normally heads to Australia every January before the program starts. We have a big Austrac shuttles, taking students to Costco, IKEA, getting their apartment set up, all of those different things to make sure that you're 100% fully prepared. So we do have dedicated program-specific admissions officers. That'll be your kind of go-to person or your go-to team for for your entire journey. And yeah, we've helped over 1,000 students in the last 2 years. So we usually send around 500 students each year to all of our programs. These are our university partners that have our dental schools here. So a really wide range, depending on, obviously, you're going for dental school, but also a little bit about the experience too. So if you want somewhere really hot and tropical, James Cook University might be an option. If you have any particular interest, which I'm sure some of you do, if you've been in contact with Dr. Bruce about helping, people that haven't had maybe dental work before, haven't been able to afford it, they have a lot of focus on rural and kind of indigenous practical work there. If you want a typical Australian experience, Brisbane Gold Coast near Surfers Paradise, one of the most beautiful places to be, affordable accommodation. Like some of our students are living in beachfront property as well, going to dental school at Griffith or UQ, which is pretty amazing. If you really like a big city, Sydney and Melbourne might be a nice option for you as well, but really just lots of different options. And we can kind of walk you through that process and figure out what might be the best fit for you for both your school preferences and your lifestyle. So this is Alexa. This is our dentistry team here. So she's going to be the one that's holding your hand throughout the entire process, walking you through every step of the way. There we go. And this is kind of the application process here we follow. So just keep in mind, so we know that the majority of our students are also applying to dental schools in Canada, as well as maybe the States as well. We're a totally free service, so it costs absolutely nothing to apply with us. And most of our universities waive the application fee if you apply through Austrac as well. So a lot of our students will be applying to multiple different pathways. And if they do decide they want to stay in Canada, they get an acceptance to a Canadian dental school. Just withdraw your application, let us know, no big deal. But we do want to make sure that everyone who is applying to multiple pathways knows about the application process. And the timeline's a little bit different. So as most of our universities start in September here, Australian programs start at the end of January, early February, because their year is opposite us. So our application process roughly starts about a year in advance. So our applications are open right now. Our deadlines are coming up. The next closest deadline is May 28th. The rest of the deadlines are in June. I think our latest deadline is in September, so through the summer. So if you're kind of thinking about applying for this application cycle and want to start in 2022, then now is definitely the time to start compiling your application. It's a really straightforward process. And like I said, we help you every step of the way. So first thing, getting in contact with us, helping us help you figure out what program fits, applying online, getting your documentation in. For those of the universities that have an interview, interviews will be happening over the summer. And then our fall is everything to do with kind of accepting your offer and getting ready to go. So all of that pre-departure stuff that I mentioned, visas, accommodations, all of those different things. Here's just kind of visual of a timeline. As I know it is confusing if you're applying to both Canada and Australia, which, like I said, most of our students are. This is kind of what it looks like. So I'll give you a rundown. So these are our dental schools here. So I'm sure some of you may have heard some of these universities before. All you can see on the map, lots of different options for you in terms of what you might be looking for your 4 years of dental school. And we do have both graduate and undergraduate programs. So we work with university students, and we also work with high school students, because many don't know that you can actually go straight into professional programs like dentistry right out of high school in Australia. So some of these programs will be 5-year programs. So with that one extra year of a foundational science year. So it's basically all the science courses that you would take in a Canadian undergraduate or bachelor's degree, maybe mixed into 1 year for all your foundational knowledge before you go into the dental program. So a few options depending on where you're at in your journey and going to dental school. Just a quick overview of all the programs. Like I said, we have the bachelor and the postgrad program for 4 or 5 years. Your minimums are around a 70 to a 75%, competitive being around an 80%. Some of our schools have prerequisites as well, and obviously the DAT is required. So you're looking, some of them have minimums, some of them don't, but you're looking around a 20 to a 21 is average. And all of our universities have specific international places that are available. At most of our universities, Austrac students fill the majority of all of those international spots as well. So last year, we submitted just over 1,200 applications for dental schools alone. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've got a lot of insight into how it works. And those that are doing interviews, obviously none are going to be in person this year, but normally they would be. Most are being done online. And your tuition, you're looking between quite a big range there actually, across all of our 8 programs, but it also depends on the years that you're looking. But that's kind of what you would be looking at for your tuition for a professional program for an international student. This is just a quick kind of overview of the GPA so that you kind of know where you might lie. As I said, most are going to be your cumulative GPA. Some are weighted. So a lot of times universities know that your first year is obviously, it's quite common for your first year to be a little bit worse in your grades than your last year's. So some will weight your years differently, but most often it's a cumulative GPA of all of your previous studies. This is kind of what your minimums and what we found are competitive. And practicing in Canada, this is one of the big questions there we go. Complete the same NDUB exams that Canadian graduates would write, and you're qualified to be a dentist. So really quite easy, simple, straightforward process, nothing additional that you have to do. But yeah, last off, I just wanted to say if you have any questions, I'll put in a few registration links in the chat. We are having a virtual fair on May 19th that all of our university partners are going to be attending. So if you did want to chat to any current students, alumni, some of our university representatives about their programs or about their campuses or anything like that, I definitely encourage you to join in. It's from 5 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. I'm on Ontario. On May 19th. And then we also are going to be covering Module 6 with Dr. Buse and FutureDMD, talking all about kind of this in a lot more in detail. And we do have, if you do want to talk to anybody who's currently living it, been there, done that type of thing, they're obviously a really valuable resource. So you can check out our Austrac Ambassadors. So Tyler, he is in his last year at the University of Sydney, Doctor of Dental Medicine, and Rachel is in Griffith University. She's just starting her 2nd year. And she is in the undergraduate route. So lots of different people. They're more than happy if you follow them on Instagram. They do takeovers on our Instagram all the time if you really want to get a good kind of idea about what it's like to live and do it. But I'll pop some links in the chat. So if you just want some more information, if you want to download a free program guide and get in touch with our admissions officers, then you can just register at the first link. And if you do want to join in our virtual fair, you can register at the second link. And like I said, both of these are free. All of our Austrac services are free, so don't hesitate to give us a call if you have any questions, or you can reach out to me. I'll pop my email in the chat as well.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for giving us a general overview of Austrac. Super valuable as another alternative option. I went to and visited one of my best friends who graduated from University of Sydney a couple of years ago, and other than the amazing beaches in Australia and it's a beautiful country, the program is amazing. And right now my associate dentist, he graduated from Sydney last year, and he has amazing hand skills. So a lot of the program there is actually really well run, and I'm sure Sarah's going to go in more detail. If you decide to come back to Canada or even the States, maybe what does that look like? Would this be a viable option for you, which we'll be touching on in Module 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to join, and yeah, really looking forward to the next modules.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great. I'm just gonna finish up with our presentation here, probably another 5-10 minutes. All right. So some of you might be kind of asking, what is our big purpose, right? With FutureDMD? Of course, a big part of it is just helping you guys give back and make your journey a little bit easier. But another part of our vision is to actually make a bigger impact. And some of you know the initiative that we've been recently pursuing, which is actually helping families in need. And many people know the story, but I love traveling, and when you travel, you meet friends. And 5 years ago, I met a friend in India. His name is AJ, sitting on in the middle of the screen, and he lives actually in the slum areas of Delhi. And you probably have been seeing on the news, you know, the situation in India is just terrible, horrendous. When you're out of a job, which of course India's been, big part of India has been locked down for about a year, you really have no savings. There's no government assistance. There's no nonprofit organization there to help you. So essentially the families just struggle. And my friend was so in debt that he was actually getting kicked out from his home. And you can see on the right of the screen, he has 4 young kids, and he didn't even have enough money to pay for food. So about almost a year now, I started supporting him and his family through the pandemic. Everything they need, from rent to food to education for their kids. And I've been doing that for a year now. And I thought to myself, if I can help him, what about his neighbors? What about all the other people around him? So about 6 months ago, my mission and our mission at FutureDMD is to help one more family every single week. And if you follow us on Instagram, we'll share stories, but these are all people around his neighborhood who need help just as much as he does. And like we're mentioning, that the proceeds for what we do is going to supporting these families. So by you being here, you're actually making a big impact. And we also have a GoFundMe page so we can make a bigger impact. And every donation made on this GoFundMe page, I personally match. This is our Instagram page. If you follow us on our link tree, we have links to all our events. We just compiled a calendar which makes it easy for you to see all the events coming up. So make sure you click on that and check out our events. Our next module, which I'll highlight in the next slide, is next week, our 4th module, when we're going to be deep diving into periodontics. So think about the externship as a like virtual shadowing on steroids. You're literally just thinking like a dentist. We instead of telling you things, we get you to think like a dentist, and you know, hopefully you're going to gain a lot more insight about what the profession has to offer you. And also, we also have a Facebook DMD member group only, where we're going to be sharing ideas and insights as well. So we'd love for you to join. And again, this is going to be the next module next week, Periodontics 101. And just by being here, we're going to offer you a promo code. If you type in giving, you'll receive 50% off. And the link's going to expire tomorrow, actually, because our event is actually almost sold out. Awesome. Again, this is our page on social media, future.dmd. If you follow us, if you have any questions, you can DM us. We have under Linktree, we have the links to all the events, and we try to make postings every couple of days to share some insights about our events, some little snippets of wisdom. Any questions for us before we end?